Good afternoon, Union City Chargers, and this is Chris Katz, Superintendent of Union City Community Schools. I thought it was time that I made another podcast. I told you I would after our January meeting of our Facility Steering Committee, and it's taken me a while, but what I'd like to do today is present to you a part of a presentation that was given by C2AE and Chrisman to our Facility Steering Committee earlier in January, just going over some of the conditions in our elementary and high school buildings as we look to consider ways that we need to renovate and improve our facilities. I want to point out as I go through this that the focus here is on things that need to be fixed and repaired, not on what is good and works well and is in good condition. So keep that in mind. Not everything is doom and gloom. However, there are certainly areas that need to be addressed in our buildings. So I'm going to move through this rather quickly because I don't want this to be a long podcast, because I want to get through everything and have you have a chance to see some of the photos and see for yourself what some of the issues are that we are dealing with. We're having another steering committee tomorrow night in which we will meet and talk about these and other issues. So let's get started. We're going to look first at the elementary school. If you are not familiar with the elementary school, this is the floor plan for the elementary school. This section in this area was built originally in 1954. And then there was an addition made, which is this portion right here. The portion out here on this end, as well as these 5 rooms and these bathrooms, and part of the media center, all of this was added in the early 2000s, and as well as some other renovations that were done. And then I believe the gym was added around 2007. So let's continue on and take a little look. So I'm going to talk about, these are the things that C2AE and Chrisman noticed and put in their presentation. And so I'm just going through all of them. Some exterior envelope performance issues. Some of the siding that was put in to replace windows back in the day is in need of repair. We've got some settlement of some slab in different places there, as well as outside, that needs to be addressed. Fire readings of walls and openings. In the older parts of the building, these rooms or these hallways and areas would not be fire rated. These doors do not close automatically and latch, and so that is a concern. There is a concern with some accessibility of restrooms. We do have some accessible restrooms in the elementary, but the majority are not. Classroom accessibility. Some of our doorways are quite narrow, not designed for people in wheelchairs, and have issues. The doorknobs, it might be on another slide, but many of the doors have doorknobs instead of handles. Makes it difficult for people to enter. They did point out some of our playing conditions. Our surfaces are not, shall we say, in the best condition, need to be improved. These are the type of things that don't seem to get addressed when money is in short supply. Some of our basketball hoops are a little old and have shown their age. Building controls are not up to date and current. These control for the heating and air conditioning where it exists. Our kitchen could use some upgrades. They could actually use a little more space. It's quite crowded in there. Some of the newer equipment we have that allows us to make some of the different meals we have take up more space. The hallways, if you look down the hallways, the floors in the hallways are high maintenance. They need to be waxed and maintained. And these days they have flooring you can put in that will, just by doing a wash, will maintain a nice surface. And so this does create additional time for maintenance, but we've always done it. I believe this tile, much of it has asbestos in it too, which if we removed it, we would have to take care of the asbestos issue. Going into our classrooms, you can see in all of the younger age classrooms, we have the individual bathrooms. Not very accessible. Could use some real updates just in not only in functionality but in appearance. They're quite dated. We've done our best to maintain the old cabinets that were put in back in the 50s, some of them, but you can see they're in somewhat disrepair, and there are things we could do to improve both of these areas. When they moved the water lines overhead back in the early 2000s, you can see it leaves the pipes exposed. It's functional. It does the job. It's not the most appealing classroom environment, but and so there are improvements that could possibly be made. You can see some of the exposed ceiling, the original ceiling tiles from back in the 1950s. Then we move over to the high school. Here's the floor plan of the high school. Not much has changed in terms of the high school floor plan, except the only addition would be this room 20 was added. The high school was built in 1960-61. The room 20 is the only addition we made. Back then, this was the wood shop and metal shop over here. Now we have a wrestling room and a weight room in that area. And the wrestlers would point out that there's a big pole right in the middle of the wrestling room, which gets in the way once in a while. But nevertheless, we've made that into a wrestling room that they appreciate. We've got some old HVAC terminal units. This one's in the cafeteria and is not in use. There really is no heating per se in the cafeteria. Right now, any heating it has is the result of overflow from some of the hallways. We've got old communications equipment that is no longer in use, littered throughout the buildings. And this is probably one of the biggest concerns we have, that the water that is heated to heat the building runs underneath the flooring. And because of that, being nearly 65 years old, is at risk of cracks and rusting out. We had a day last year of school we had to cancel because pipes, it rusted out and burst underneath the bathroom floor in our west bathrooms. And so we had to figure out where the leak was, dig up the floor, and repair it. And so there's concern about that and a potential for a massive leak creating a sinkhole if it wasn't discovered. So interest in, it's been proposed we move the water lines overhead like we did with our elementary back 20 years ago. We have some old legacy electrical switchgear that really needs to be updated. Again, our hallways built back in the early 1960s today would not be allowed. They wouldn't pass fire rating. You can see underneath the glass that's along the top, in many of them there's a gap there. So they like, obviously, between the hallways and the rooms, there to be a solid connection so that fire can't easily pass from one to the other. Our doorways, again, same type of a situation. I think one of the concerns with doorways, again, is access. They're not very accessible disability-wise. And even if the door is blocked for safety, with the glass windows, someone could easily break their way through them. Another concern access-wise is the doorknobs. These days, everything is a lever to make it more accessible for people who have trouble. We do not have an updated current fire alarm system in the high school. We still have the original break glass and a bell goes off. And so an up-to-date alarm system that would notify the entire building and automatically contact the fire department would be a useful addition for improving safety. Proposal here as well as for the elementary building, although there wasn't a photo at the elementary. But if you look at the front of each building, there is no secure vestibule. So if someone comes in that front door, they are in with the students. We do have, as everyone knows now, a camera system that we use to buzz people to allow them through that door. Ideally, in what most schools, any new schools built today, and many existing schools have been remodeled to include an area where people are allowed in and they can communicate with the office, but still do not have access to students. And in fact, in most cases, they have to go through the actual office in order to get into the building where students are. And again, that is for the safety of students and staff. Our music room, band room, accessibility there is not good because of there are stairways for both entrances. On the outside of our building, there are some brick areas that are in need of repair. This is the loading dock off the back of the high school stage. I think this slide is meant to show that there are things we could do in the classroom to make them a better learning environment for today. We don't have very many electrical outlets in most of our classrooms. We have added technology equipment where we can, and we've been pretty good about adding technology, but because of the way our buildings are designed from the 60s, connections, cabling for those things isn't built in, and so we have a lot of cables, loose cables around. And then we have tables and chairs in our classrooms that are outdated, many of them. We try to replace them as best we can with funds we have available, but we have many that could certainly use an update. Our life skills class, yes, we do have cooking as a component of that. Originally, the home ec room back in the 60s, and for I know many years we did not have home ec, but we've added it back in as part of life skills. But some of our equipment there, as you can see, is still dated back to the 1960s, so there are some updates we could use there. And locker rooms. Our locker rooms are in not very good shape. Not much is done to them to keep them up to date. The builders told us that it's been quite a number of years before they designed a high school with group showers. And I know that our students rarely use the showers. I think the girls' bathroom has things stored in many of their showers because the girls don't use them. I think the boys might use them some at some times, but not very much. And most locker rooms these days build individual showers for students to use. Some of our lockers, although we've replaced lockers a couple of times, there are a few that are in bad shape and need to be addressed. On the left there, you're looking at the old drying room where shoulder pads used to hang. I don't believe they use that anymore because that equipment doesn't function. Our library media center, certainly could use some updates. We would like to provide a comfortable space for students to read and work on their schoolwork when they are in there. And so we could definitely use improvements there. And another space that needs to be addressed is our bathrooms. Bathrooms have become a big concern. We've added vape detectors that don't always detect vape. We still have trouble with students vaping in the bathrooms. We've had troubles with students doing damage in the bathrooms at times. You can see we've now got metal around the pipes underneath the sinks, in part for that reason. This is the third set of dividers we've had between the stools, and you can see neither one of those is handicap accessible. There's another photo to show you that we don't have handicap accessible stalls in our restrooms, and these are the restrooms we use for home wrestling matches, so we don't have home handicap accessible bathrooms for visitors when they come to view our home wrestling matches or other activities that go on in our gym. So we really could need some upgrades in our restrooms. This shows an old slot where our old clock system that we used to have where clocks were mounted. That system doesn't work any longer. And so where we do have clocks mounted, in many cases they are battery powered clocks, which every time the time changes have to be manually reset, and they are not connected in any way, so they're not in sync. So the times don't usually line up between classrooms. We have placed digital clocks in the hallways, as our students know and our staff know. And we would like to extend those digital clocks into the classrooms so that all of our clocks were on the same time and would all function together. Those digital clocks also include our new PA speakers and work much better than the old 65-year-old PA speakers, which have a lot of trouble. So we could use some upgrades there. And then our science labs are in very bad condition. The plumbing, I'm not showing you underneath, but the pipes underneath are rusted and in very bad shape. And we don't use the gas lines due to fear of gas leaks, so we're concerned about. And what we could use is some increased electrical capability and use electric. We could use electric Bunsen burners these days. We don't have those. We don't have the electrical capacity. Here's one of the old lab stations that we still have there that obviously this type of thing we would like to be able to update. And these go back to the early 60s again. So, and that's the last slide. So I've taken you through the slide and some of the discussion we've had. Obviously, we have broad concerns with the entire structure of the buildings and safety concerns related to our doors and the exterior of the buildings. I'm not going to get into all the safety concerns. We don't like to broadcast all that stuff too much publicly, except for the things that are obvious. But there are other issues that we would like to deal with for student safety, not only against violence, but also against fire and other natural disasters type things. So there you have it. As I said, the steering committee is meeting on Monday, February 3rd, and we're going to be looking at a couple of things. We're looking at what our current taxable value of property is in our district. I can tell you the taxable value right now is in 2024 took a big jump due to the we believe the increase in or the opening of some of the solar projects In our district. Our property tax value went from 202 million taxable value in 2023 to 264 million last year. It was a 30% jump in taxable value of our property, and that was due to the solar farms. Whether it will continue to go up or whether we will go back to our normal annual 2 to 3% increase is difficult to say at this point. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow night, and the members of the committee will bring in their property taxable value to try to see what the impact of any type of a bond proposal would mean for them, to help us judge what is affordable for the community. And we're going to figure out ways to reach out to the community to get feedback about some of the issues that need to be addressed, and work on developing a proposal that will address as many of the needs that the schools have as we can. So I'm looking forward to that meeting tomorrow night, and I will share more with you in another podcast after that meeting. Those of you that watch this all the way through, I appreciate it. If you have any comments or suggestions, please reach out to me. My email is ckatz@unioncityschools.org. Phone number here is 517-741-8091. And I want to thank you again and say, go Chargers.